Make it clear, we're talking about the Taliban. These are a group that are professed jihadis looking to implement Islamic law, and they take Islamic law seriously. And we're going to look at Islamic law as they understand it. But you know, you really don't have to go into how they understand it. One could go just back to the year 2011 when a Saudi prince, I think his name was Mohammed bin Talal, offered a ransom of $900,000 for the capture of an Israeli soldier for the specific use of prisoner exchange. Why is this important? Because I think it's pretty clear that the people who are fighting these wars against Israel, they don't see this war ending anytime soon. So they're looking for the capture of these prisoners for the specific purpose of prisoner exchange as an ongoing basis, notwithstanding whether that war has an endpoint that we can see right now. So this prisoner exchange and the capturing of soldiers for prisoner exchange is very important as an ongoing process. Now, you know, it's very interesting, you know, when I was still on the Joint Staff, I was asked to write a paper to explain why it is, given the normal standard for the treatment of prisoners in Islamic law called for less harsh treatment, our prisoners were always being tortured to death at the time. And of course they were, and this is something that the troops knew and still know. And so it's not hard to make the argument that the norm has been that our prisoners have been very, very badly treated and oftentimes tortured to death. So what we see with the current situation is this is a change. Now, to talk about this concept of the use of prisoners for exchange is actually quite classical. If we take a look at something from Shaibani CR, Shaibani wrote really the first book of Islamic law of warfare that is extant that we have today. He died in the year 805. And what does he say? Well, he says, and I'll just give you the right quote, "The prisoner of war should not be killed, but he may be ransomed or set free by grace." So going all the way back to the 8th century, we know that the use of prisoners was for prisoner exchange. Now, that would be a historical look, but we can also go to Reliance of the Traveler, the book of Islamic law translated in English and kind of serves as a kind of a go-to book of Islamic law that's ubiquitously sold in America. And what we see in Book O, the Book of Justice, the section on jihad, in fact, section 14 is, I'll just read it to you. "When an adult male is taken captive, the Caliph considers the interest of Islam and the Muslims and decides between the prisoner's death, slavery, release without paying anything, or ransoming himself in exchange for money or for a Muslim captive held by the enemy. If the prisoner becomes a Muslim before the Caliph chooses any of the 4 alternatives, then he may not be killed and one of the other 3 alternatives is chosen." So so we do have a clear reading that what we just saw happen from the Islamic perspective completely conforms to Islamic legal understandings of the use of prisoners, to which we are also seeing, referencing back to the Saudi prince offering a reward for the capture of Israelis, a practice that is ubiquitously known today to be that practice. So if you're going to ask me how the release of this prisoner went down in the Taliban community, I think we should see it specifically as simply prisoner exchange as an ongoing basis as it is understood. So how does the Taliban look at this prisoner exchange? Well, I think that we should think that they see it as the normal activity of an ongoing jihad against an enemy. Whether we quote classical Islamic law going to the 8th century, or whether we're looking at modern Islamic law, or even the prisoner exchange, the capture of an Israeli soldier for the use of prisoner exchange by a member of the Saudi royal family, we see that the use of prisoners in this context is ubiquitously and continuously understood. And there's no reason to think anything else.